Good afternoon and welcome to the press conference to announce the Connecticut State Department of Education partnership with TeachRock. I am Chief Academic Officer Irene Parisi for the Department of Education. And today we have the absolute joy of announcing our partnership with Steven Van Zandt's Rock and Roll Forever Foundation and his team at TeachRock. This really is a unique partnership that is going to provide our teachers statewide with two things: a standards-aligned arts integration curriculum and the opportunity for all learners in Connecticut to develop a new perspective on history through music and lyrics. This really is an exciting moment to be a part of, where history of music will be our new textbook, our lesson plan, our connection to historical moments and stories told through song. TeachRock has been a part of my work for many years. The mission of Steven Van Zandt's work to show students and teachers that when events and culture and music collide, the soundtrack of our history can tell a different story, with a perspective we would not have been able to take otherwise if it were not for the musical poets across time putting down their words, their rhythm, and their blues to paper. So for me as a teacher, TeachRock is an opportunity to bring the learning to life, to make connections, foster meaningful relationships through song, and to engage all Connecticut students to think like historians and musicians. With us today in this announcement is our Deputy Commissioner of Innovation and Academics, Desi Nesmith, and I want to take a moment to really thank him for his visionary leadership in reimagining what teaching and learning would look like in our classrooms, and for his unwavering support for this project. So thank you, Deputy Commissioner Nesmith. I'll now turn it over to you, as I know you have a few words to share.
Thank you, Irene, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deputy Commissioner of Education, Desi Nesmith. From my time as a classroom teacher and now as a parent of two kids in elementary school, we know it's important to provide teachers the tools that they need to innovate. And we've also learned in this pandemic, it's especially true right now. That's why as a music fan and as an educator, I'm excited to join Governor Lamont, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Steven Van Zandt, and my colleagues here at the Department of Education to announce that Connecticut will launch the first statewide partnership with TeachRock. Presented by Steven's Rock and Roll Forever Foundation, TeachRock is an innovative curriculum that uses history of popular music and culture in a way that is designed to resonate with students and enrich their learning experience. If we reflect back on our days as students, I think we would all agree that the educators and the learning experiences that we found most engaging and interesting were those that went beyond the textbook. And TeachRock does that by working with school districts at no cost on the integration of lessons that connect history and music and culture. We can all get behind music regardless of our age, whether we're a student or a teacher, and I'm excited for the potential of this program. And I'm also excited to hear from the man himself today, Mr. Steven Van Zandt. Thank you, Irene.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Nesmith. How do I introduce the man? He is a musician, a performer, a songwriter, one of the best arrangers out there, a music producer, a music supervisor, TV producer, an actor, director, Broadway producer, TV and film composer, an international DJ. Little Steven's Underground Garage is one of the best programs on Sirius on satellite radio. He is an activist, a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a historian, a teacher, and I would also add a mentor. Steven Van Zandt is known as a founding member of Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band and Little Steven and the Disciples of Soul. His songs, whether they're written, arranged, produced, or performed by others, they move your soul, or they challenge you to be a part of that movement for change. His movement to provide all educators with access to high quality instructional materials that bring music, history, and culture together to lift the learning experience of all children at no cost is so appreciated and truly a model for others. Thank you, Steven Van Zandt, for your commitment to teachers and children everywhere. Thank you for your partnership, for your spirit, for your commitment to bringing music history to Connecticut classrooms. It is my honor to welcome you as a partner in learning in Connecticut, Mr. Van Zandt.
Thank you, and Today, I'm mostly my dog's babysitter, as you can see. We'll see if she can be quiet for a minute here. I may have to pick her up again. Thank you, Irene Parisi, for all the great work you've done. Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Des Nesmith, and thank you, Governor Lamont, for welcoming our TeachRock.org music history curriculum to the Connecticut public school system. We just went public with our TeachRock program in 2017 after 15 years of work, making sure we got it right. The idea came as a response to the No Child Left Behind legislation, which had the unintentional consequence of canceling all the arts classes in the nation. Educators were forced to end those music and arts classes and replace them with testing because our country suddenly was obsessed with testing. Our science and math scores, I guess, had been dropping worldwide. Someday we're going to realize that testing isn't learning, but that's a discussion for a different day. And of course, every statistic shows that a student that takes a music class does better in math and science, but that's a discussion for a different day. Also, our solution was threefold. First, let's create a curriculum that keeps the arts in the DNA of the public education system. We decided to design it for all the students, not just music students. And we also designed it as much for teachers as the students, you know. Let the teachers show their creativity while still meeting all of the state standards. Second, we decided to devise a methodology that works for this generation, who are part of a generation gap almost as big as ours in the 60s, because they are faster than us, they are smarter than us, and have absolutely no patience whatsoever. So we needed to devise a curriculum that functions in the present tense. You know, we can't tell these kids, learn this now and someday you'll use it, which is how we were taught. Not when they can get their answers in 20 seconds on their device, which is as much an appendage as a device. We need to give the students something they can use now, understand now, and have relevancy in their lives right now. And I think we've done that. And third, our goal ultimately, once we have the arts integrated into every discipline at every grade level in every school, we hope to affect the graduation rate in a positive way. And we're quite confident that this can happen. Nobody wants to think about it or talk about it, but you know, close to 50% of the kids in the poor neighborhoods are dropping out of school, dropping out of high school. And that is just unacceptable, particularly since close to 50% of those who drop out end up in the criminal justice system sooner or later, which is just profoundly intolerable. And that's on us, you know? So if we can keep a kid in high school until graduation, their lives change. You know, they have a real shot at a productive life, a much better shot. So that's our three goals. And statistics, of course, show that if a kid likes one single teacher or one single class, they will come to school. Well, we want to be that class. You know, the days of dragging young people to some old school education methodology, I think, are over. Kids come to school with gifts. You know, students show up with gifts of imagination, instinct, emotion, curiosity already in place. You know, we don't have to teach them that. So let's use what they have and design what we educators are using according to what the students' gifts already are. You know, why fight it? Let's use their gifts. That's what we're all about. You know, with this fast, you know, ever-changing world, it's more important to teach kids how to think than what to think. So thank you, Connecticut, for sharing our passion and our priorities as we do all we can to help our teachers, our soldiers on the front lines in the war against ignorance. And boy, do we need them these days, as they continue to stimulate, inspire, and motivate the young minds that will someday realize the idealistic vision our founders had for our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen Van Zandt. And again, we appreciate your partnership. You may or may not have noticed that I actually attended some of your virtual classroom walkthroughs, and I was grateful for that. I was able to visit one of your classrooms in New Jersey and New York. And what I appreciated most about that visit is your openness. You were willing to share your perspective, and the way you painted a picture of history in that moment in time that inspired you to do something, to take action through your strengths, music. And you could really see how the students resonated with your message. They reacted to your story, made a connection with you, and they felt like that they too had something to say. So we do have a short video that we would like to share with the group to illustrate this further. I'm going to just pause for a moment so I can cue that up and share my screen. And I want to make sure that we are sharing sound, and here we go.
There's so many areas, a subject that can be taught through music, because music is listening, music is feeling, music is breathing, it's alive. Good morning, everybody. All the lessons that Rock Will Forever have put together is really a wonderful thing that makes them excited about coming to school again, engages them in a brand new way. Not only learning a subject, but bringing them all together. Her roots started in the church. Who can point out Detroit, Michigan on our wonderful map? She's got it. Clap your hands for Tatiana. Does anybody know what this country was like, the United States, between 1940 to 1970?
Back then, the black people and white people were separated because of segregation and racism.
How many African Americans migrated or moved to Detroit in that time frame? Anyone interested in doing some more math? Music is such a great way to not just teach one area. There's so many areas, a subject that can be taught through music. By having music incorporated in language arts, history, math, science, there's so many possibilities that can really increase the students' learning.
So I think it's easy to see why the department's partnership with Stephen Van Zandt and TeachRock is timely and needed this progressive approach to engaging our students. With us today to support the Connecticut State Department of Education and TeachRock partnership is Governor Ned Lamont, an advocate for the arts, a musician himself, a leader dedicated to all Connecticut teachers, children, and families, ensuring that they have access to learning experiences that can make a difference in their lives. Governor Ned Lamont, thank you for being with us today to welcome Stephen Van Zandt and the TeachRock team to Connecticut. I'll now turn it over to you for a few words.
Hey, thank you, Irene. And Stephen, I didn't realize how much we had in common until I heard Irene's introduction. You do a little acting. I do a little acting in this job. You're an activist. I'm an activist. You played with Bruce and Meatloaf. I played with a little band called the Flower Pot. You remember them, don't you? They were very popular in Syosset, Long Island for about 3 weeks in the 60s. But let me say something seriously, Stephen. I'm so appreciative of you focusing on the kids here in Connecticut. As Desi knows, we have hundreds of thousands of kids. Our school's been open. They haven't been coming to school. They didn't feel comfortable coming to school. COVID had them at home. They've been isolated. They've been alone. And what TeachRock does is inspires young people. They don't need more STEM. They don't need more Zoom. They got to get together. They got to socialize with each other. We got to get them back into the classroom. And I think music inspires every day. And I think music also teaches every day. And I think we both, grew up. I hate having rock and roll being ancient history as you teach these people. It seems like yesterday. But, from Bob Dylan, we just saw Aretha Franklin, the music you've been playing. I think it inspires young people, helps them understand the culture of the day, something they can identify with, and help them identify with their parents. And the other thing I found about teaching is, as you just said, every kid comes in with a little bit of magic. And sometimes you need that class or that teacher or that concept like TeachRock that helps them find their love, helps them find their passion, helps them feel good about themselves. And once you find that love, that passion, that not only helps you with, in this case, music, it'll help you with your friendships and help you with the 3 Rs as well. I think it's inspiring what you're doing. I really hope our team puts its shoulder to the wheel, Stephen, and makes this a big success for all of our kids here in the state. And coming up and visit us sometime. We'd love to see you.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Governor Lamont. I also would like to recognize Bill Carbone and Christine Nick on the TeachRock Rock and Roll Forever side. They've been my partners in getting this work here. So I appreciate your efforts to get us all here today. At this time, I will welcome Rob Blanchard to assist in facilitating some time with our friends in the media, Stephen Van Zandt, as well as colleagues at the Department of Education, including Stephen Armstrong, our social studies education consultant for the department. So Rob, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Irene. We'll start with the Waterbury Republican American.
Thanks. How many school districts, have any school districts expressed an interest in the program? Is it in any school district or arriving imminently?
It's arriving. So we'll be, with this announcement, we'll be releasing the application for districts to choose to apply for the first cohort of this partnership.
And how many will be in the first cohort?
We can manage right now up to 10 districts. And so we're anxious to see who will apply.
Huh, interesting. All right, well, thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Moving on to the Connecticut Mirror. All right, the Hartford Current.
Hi, everyone. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about what this could look like on a day-to-day schedule, you know, for a kindergartner versus an 8th grader. How do we see this being incorporated into the classroom?
So perhaps Christine, maybe you could assist.
Sure. So the thought would be that the schools that we'll be working with will incorporate our resources into their existing curricular plans, and that students would get exposure hopefully once a month, but we're obviously mindful of the things that schools have to accomplish in addition to introducing students to our resources.
And perhaps Steve Armstrong, since you have been a proponent of TeachRock and have helped design some lessons, perhaps you have something to share too.
Sure. I've taught history and social studies courses at both the high school and college level. And I can tell you from I know a lot of teachers that will be doing this will be music teachers, but I can't tell you how effective this can be in a social studies or history context as well. Trust me, there's kids that I've had at both levels that have minimal, and I emphasize in some cases, minimal interest in history. But it's through the lens of music that I've been able to get them involved. So this is great for music teachers, but I'll just repeat again, from the history humanities concept, this is a home run as well. And just as a side note, I know some folks, Bill Carbone, I know very well. He'll do a great job for us. And I actually have a couple lessons up that I wrote way at the beginning of TeachRock. So I would not look at those. No, I'm kidding, but it's a great program, and I'm glad I'm involved with them.
I would just add that the way the lesson plans are designed, they are easy to implement into the classroom, into the existing daily schedule. So I think through the partnership, we will learn how the intersections can actually happen, how you marry the existing district curricula with this supplemental resource.
And I should have mentioned in the beginning also, Irene, these lesson plans were designed to be cross-curricular. It's not just for music class. It is designed for history class, for social studies, for English class. I mean, you know, you name it, it can be used in whatever your discipline happens to be.
Thank you for that. That's a good reminder.
All right, thank you. Moving on to Hearst, Connecticut Media. All right, Fox 61. NBC Connecticut. WTNH. And last but not least, WTIC.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
What are some of the nuts and bolts as far as what would this look like in the classroom, Desi?
So Christine, if you want to give some examples of what this would look like in the classroom day.
Sure. So a lot of what we're leading on is, as has been mentioned already, is the interdisciplinary nature of the resources that we've developed. So we're looking for it to fit in where it already aligns with a teacher's objectives for the day. So for instance, that might be if we have a great lesson that talks about the Grateful Dead and how they made accommodations for members of their audience that were part of the deaf and hard of hearing community. A teacher might find that that makes sense if they're doing a unit on sound and acoustics because it talks about the science therein. Or it might also make sense for a different teacher that's looking at disability studies and looking at bringing broader perspectives into their classroom. Part of the work that we'll be doing in this rollout as part of the partnership is to be working with districts and schools to fit the resources into their curricular plans to make sure that it feels natural with their flow, in addition to providing a cyclopedia over the course of the year.
And
I would
Stevie,
also add that I was able to see it integrated into a language arts lesson. So teachers were still elevating like higher order thinking questions, looking at the text, making connections, even creating projects that they presented to Stephen Van Zandt. They were so proud to share with him. So there's that performance-based type of task component with these lessons. So it does provide many new opportunities for students to stretch their thinking, engage in higher order thinking and inquiry, and certainly demonstrate their learning in new and different ways.
and Stevie, if I can, what's your experience with Connecticut and what makes Connecticut perfect for this program?
Well, of course, performed there many times, and it's pretty much one of our local stops. It's kind of our local area, so it feels like home. This is all about how aware of the priorities the governor and education people are. And in this case, you have an extremely aware system in place in Connecticut, starting with the governor and down to the Department of Education, who are making it a priority. And anybody who makes it a priority, we're built for them. Because we made a point to make it extremely flexible, extremely comprehensive, no matter what it is, if it's Black History Month, if it's a women's studies, if it's some ethnic group, if it's, the Latin X community or so many different niches and different, different places the education system can go. We're there for them. And if we don't have a lesson plan, we will create one if they need one that we don't have, So it's just a matter of the system itself being open to new ideas and realizing that the old ideas, need some freshening up, and that's why it's so thrilling for us to have this. This is our first state that is accepting, we have over 40,000 teachers registered, and we're starting to have partner schools all over the place. But this is our first statewide acceptance of our curriculum, and that's when we're going to start to see a difference. A couple of years down the road, we're going to start to see the difference. I'm quite sure of that. Just witnessing what happens in our partner schools, it's amazing to see the enthusiasm that you don't see in the other classes. So I'm very, very excited about this.
Great, thanks.
One more.
It's been
We've
a
got
tough 12 months, I'll tell you, and this is a time where Connecticut needs music, our kids need music, Stephen, and I think this is a custom-made relationship. I think a little bit of music and what that says about our lives, what that says about our history, what it says about each other, will bring our classrooms to life and our kids with a big smile on their face. I cannot thank you enough for what you're doing, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you know how much our kids appreciate it.
Thank you.
And lastly, we've got, I'm sorry, the Associated Press. And then we are all.
Thank you. Stephen, can you talk a little bit about how you know if this is being successful, how you know it's been successful in other schools? I mean, you were talking about people like testing, but how do you know that this curriculum is working?
Well, we're not going to have, definitive statistics, for a number of years. We literally just went public a couple of years ago now. But we've been doing our own measuring, which begins in my mind with enthusiasm. I think that's what it's all about. And the teachers, we saw a lot of teachers on the last 2 tours I just did. We were giving teachers tickets to come to the show so that we could discuss the curriculum with them. And the reaction we got from the teachers was incredible. Just that alone, all these teachers thanking us for giving them these tools, and that was exciting. But then seeing it in action, and I just visited our first partner school right before the quarantine. And it was one of the most thrilling moments of my life. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I've done a lot of things in my life, but to see the kindergarten through 6th grade, they were using our curriculum in every single discipline, kindergarten through 6th grade. And in the enthusiasm of the teachers and the kids, just, singing and dancing and applying certain ideas to music that, that they can relate to. Because, it's just a matter of finding that common ground with a kid. They're ready to be educated. They're ready to, they're not, you don't have to talk kids into being curious. Just got to find something they're curious about, and every kid is into music. I mean, that's just, lucky, really. We're lucky to have some kind of common ground with this generation. And that is certainly the common ground. Every single kid is into music. So let's use it, right? And that's, so I've seen it. And we're not going to have, dropout, or graduation statistics for years, but I'm quite confident about it, because this kind of enthusiasm, when you get that kind of enthusiasm in kindergarten, it'll stay with the kids as long as we have the class, every grade level. As long as we have something similar in every grade level, they're going to stay stimulated. They're going to stay that way. And by the way, that energy is then transferred to the other disciplines. Then they're more open to the science and math. That maybe, some kids are just not comfortable with that kind of specific way of thinking, that precision way of thinking, so get them to relax first on something that they do understand, like music, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, wait, maybe this education thing is, not so difficult after all. Maybe I can handle the other things, so we're going to see that kind of energy, I think, transferred to the other disciplines as well. But in the end, I'm quite confident we're going to be affecting the graduation rate eventually.
And Governor, if you could just address, you touched on a little bit, but how does this fit in with your whole mission of overcoming the learning loss during the pandemic?
Kids have gone through a really tough time. We have a 211 hotline. They've been calling up. We call it quarantine. They've been isolated. So first thing we got to do is get kids smiling again, get kids back in the classroom, get kids back with their friends. And as Stephen said, there's nothing better than music to make them do that. It just lets out a big sigh of relief. And then along the way, you're learning about a little bit of history, a little bit about culture. Maybe you're hearing some lyrics that speak to you. You can share that with a friend. I think this is just what we need right now.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And that concludes our press conference.
Come visit, Stephen.
Definitely, my friend. I'll see you sooner than later.
Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.